The night sky over Earth was calm, painted with quiet stars and a silver moon. But far above, hidden beyond the clouds, a damaged cargo ship drifted silently through the atmosphere. It was not human-made. The ship came from a world called Valeria, a beautiful planet full of light, art, and harmony. Yet now, the people inside this ship were not free citizens. They were prisoners. Inside the ship's cold metal walls, a group of alien girls sat in fear. Their hands glowed faintly blue under dim lights. Their skin shimmered like crystal under the weak lamp, and their large silver eyes reflected sadness. They were called Valerians, known across galaxies for their intelligence and peaceful hearts. But tonight they were being traded like objects. The smugglers who controlled the ship were not kind beings. They were criminals from many species driven by greed. They planned to sell the Valerian girls on Earth, where a secret network of black market traders dealt in rare alien captives. To these smugglers it was only business, but to the Valerians it was the end of their freedom. One of them, Lyra, sat near a small window watching the stars blur into streaks of light. She was young, brave, and quiet. She remembered her home, its floating gardens and soft blue rivers. Her voice trembled as she whispered in her language, "Will we ever see the sky of Valeria again?" Another girl, Saren, tried to smile. "Maybe humans are kind," she said softly. "Maybe they will help us," but the others shook their heads. The stories they had heard about humans were not gentle. Rumors across space said that Earth was a planet of war, a world still learning kindness. None of them truly believed there was hope waiting below. Suddenly, the ship's alarm screamed. The lights flickered red. A loud explosion shook the deck. One of the smugglers shouted in panic, "Engine failure! We're losing control!" Lyra fell to the floor, gripping a rail as the ship spun violently. The stars vanished, replaced by a burning view of Earth's atmosphere. Fire surrounded the hull as the ship descended faster and faster. The smugglers tried to escape in smaller pods, leaving the captives behind. Lyra and the others screamed as gravity pulled them down. Then everything went white. When Lyra opened her eyes again, she was lying on soft grass under a strange sky. The ship had crashed in a forest. Smoke rose from the wreckage and small fires flickered among the trees. Around her, the other Valerian girls were waking up, frightened but alive. The air was heavy, and the scent of earth and rain was strange to them. Lyra touched the ground and whispered, "This is Earth." They were free from the smugglers, but lost on an alien world. For hours they wandered among trees, trying to understand their surroundings. The stars above looked different from their own sky. Strange sounds came from animals in the dark. The Valerians stayed close together, whispering softly in their musical language. Then, as dawn broke, they saw lights moving in the distance, vehicles, drones, and human search teams coming to investigate the crash. Panic filled their hearts. "Humans are coming," Saren cried. "We must hide." They ran deeper into the forest, their glowing skin dimming as they used their natural biolight to blend into shadows. They didn't know that the humans approaching were not soldiers or hunters, but scientists from a nearby research base. Dr. Elias Hart led the search team. He was a kind man in his late 30s, known for his curiosity about life beyond Earth. He had spent years studying signals from other worlds but never expected to meet aliens face to face. When his team found the crash site, they were speechless. The metallic structure was unlike anything made by humans. The hull shimmered with unknown alloys and strange symbols covered its surface. One of the officers whispered, "Sir, this is extraterrestrial." Elias stepped forward carefully. He looked around and noticed something, footprints, small light steps leading away from the ship. "Someone survived," he said quietly. In the forest, Lyra and the others hid inside a cave behind a waterfall. They were cold, hungry, and afraid. Lyra's mind raced. Should they reveal themselves or stay hidden forever? She thought of the smugglers' cruelty and wondered if humans were any different. Hours passed before she heard footsteps outside. She motioned for the others to stay quiet. A man appeared near the cave entrance. Elias, he was alone, holding a flashlight, his voice calm. "Hello?" he called softly. "Is anyone there?" "You don't need to be afraid," Lyra froze. She understood only a few human words, but the tone of his voice didn't sound threatening. Still, she stayed silent. Elias stepped closer and gently set down a small bag of food and a thermal blanket. "I don't know if you understand me," he said, "but I want to help." "You're hurt, aren't you?" He didn't move closer. He simply sat on a rock, showing empty hands. His patience surprised her. In all her life, no stranger had waited so calmly. After a long silence, Lyra stepped into the light. Elias gasped. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Glowing skin, silver eyes, delicate facial markings that looked like stars. But his surprise turned to compassion. He spoke slowly, kindly. "You're safe now." Behind Lyra, other Valerian girls peeked out, trembling. Elias smiled softly. "It's okay. You're safe." That night, Elias brought the girls to his old countryside lab, far from cities and noise. The place was quiet, filled with plants and old machines. He gave them warm blankets, soft clothes, and food they could eat. The Valerians watched him curiously. On Valeria, kindness was a sacred act, but they had never seen it from another species. Lyra tried to speak. "You help us?" she asked slowly. Elias nodded. "Yes, help." He pointed to himself. Elias, then to her. "You?" "Lyra," she said, her voice soft but steady. For the first time since her capture, she smiled. Over the next few days, communication improved. Elias used drawings and simple words to explain things. Earth, food, safety, trust. The Valerians learned quickly. They were intelligent and their curiosity grew each day. One evening, as they sat near a small fire outside the lab, Lyra asked in broken English, "Why you help us?" "We are not your kind." Elias looked up at the stars. "Because freedom should belong to everyone," he said. "Human or alien, it doesn't matter. No one deserves chains." His words touched her heart. She had always thought of humans as cold and selfish. But this man, this simple human scientist, showed her something she had never seen before. Pure compassion. But danger still lingered. Unknown to Elias, the smugglers who had escaped the crash were still on Earth. They were searching for the Valerian captives they had lost. Using stolen satellites, they tracked energy signals near Elias's lab. One of them hissed through a communicator. "We found them. Prepare for retrieval." While Elias and the Valerians rested, dark shadows moved through the forest. The peace they had found was fragile, and the threat of the past was returning. Yet for that one quiet night, Lyra felt something she had never known since her capture. Hope. For the first time, she looked at the human beside her and whispered softly, "Maybe humans are not like stories said." Elias smiled faintly, not knowing her exact words but feeling their meaning in her tone. Above them, the stars of Valeria shone faintly, far away but no longer unreachable. Morning light entered through the old windows of Dr. Elias Hart's countryside laboratory. The smell of coffee mixed with the soft sound of birds singing outside. The world seemed peaceful, but inside the small building, life had completely changed. For years, Elias had worked alone, studying signals from deep space and writing quiet reports that few ever read. Now his lab was filled with gentle voices from another world, the Valerian girls. Their soft blue glow reflected off the walls, turning the plain room into something almost magical. The aliens were learning quickly. Though their speech was broken and slow, they were curious about everything. One of them, Saren, stared in wonder at a toaster. When the bread popped up, she jumped, her silver eyes wide. Elias laughed gently. "It's just food," he said. "Human food." Saren smiled shyly, her voice musical. "Earth food. Happy food?" Elias nodded. "Sometimes," he said with a chuckle. Even in fear and confusion, the Valerians were full of life. They asked about the trees, the sky, the scent of rain. They wanted to know how humans lived, how they learned, and how they could create warmth from simple fire and friendship. Lyra, who spoke the best English among them, spent most of her time observing Elias. She was still cautious, her heart holding both fear and curiosity. She remembered the smugglers' cruelty, the way they treated kindness as weakness. Yet Elias was different. He smiled without wanting anything in return. He listened without judgment. One afternoon, she asked softly, "Why you live here alone?" Elias paused, looking out the window. "I used to work in a big city," he said, "but people there stopped believing in dreams. I wanted peace, and a place to listen to the universe." "The universe speaks?" Lyra asked, tilting her head. Elias smiled. "Always. We just have to listen carefully." Lyra liked that answer. It reminded her of the Valerian way, to feel the world through silence and light. She began to trust him a little more each day. But peace never stays forever. Far away in the darkness of space, the smugglers who had lost their cargo were furious. Their leader, a cruel traitor named Vorak, slammed his clawed hand against a metal table. "Those humans have no idea what they are protecting," he growled. "The Valerians are valuable. Their minds alone could buy us 10 planets. One of his henchmen showed him a hologram, faint energy readings near Earth's surface. "We traced the crash survivors to a rural area," he said. "We will recover them soon." Vorak smiled coldly. "Then prepare the ship." No more mistakes, the hunt had begun. Back on Earth, life continued quietly. Elias taught the Valerians simple words, and in return, they shared stories about their home. They described Valeria's floating gardens, where crystal flowers grew in the air, and singing rivers that produced music when the wind touched them. At night, they sat by the fire telling tales of peace and light. The humans had never heard such beauty. Elias recorded their songs, knowing they might be the only voices of their kind left in the galaxy. Sometimes Lyra would look up at the stars and whisper, "We thought humans destroy everything, but maybe humans protect too." Elias didn't always understand her words, but he could feel their meaning. Humanity's heart was showing her something new, compassion without reason. After a week, Elias decided it was no longer safe to keep them hidden forever. He needed help. He contacted an old friend, Dr. Maya Chen, a scientist who worked with the United Nations Space Observation Program. He sent her a coded message. "I found survivors from a non-human crash. They need protection. Trust only yourself." When Maya arrived 2 days later, she couldn't believe her eyes. She saw the Valerians standing silently behind Elias, glowing softly like moonlight. "My God," she whispered. "They're real," Elias nodded. "They're not invaders. They were captives. We must protect them." Maya felt the same shock Elias had felt the first night, but she quickly saw the truth. The fear in the girls' eyes, the kindness in their gestures. She promised to help. "We'll keep this secret until the world is ready," she said. "But Elias, if the government finds out, they might take them for experiments." "I know," Elias replied. "That's why we must show them humanity first. Not fear, not power, but care." Days passed, and the bond between humans and aliens grew deeper. Saren learned to read a little English. One morning, she proudly pointed at a word in a book and said, "Friend." Elias smiled. "Yes, friend." She repeated the word, touching her heart as if to memorize it forever. "Friend," she whispered again. The Valerians began to help around the lab. Their touch could repair broken circuits by channeling small amounts of bioenergy. They cleaned, cooked simple food, and even grew strange glowing plants from their world in the garden. At night, they sang soft harmonies that made the stars seem brighter. The entire place felt alive again, as if Earth and Valeria had begun to share one soul. But Lyra still had nightmares. She dreamed of metal cages, cold laughter, and the ship falling through fire. She would wake up sweating, her glow flickering dimly. Elias would find her sitting alone outside. "Can't sleep?" he asked one night. She shook her head. "Dreams. Bad dreams." He sat beside her, handing her a blanket. "You're safe here," he said gently. "No one will hurt you again." Lyra looked at him with watery eyes. "You say same words every night." "You believe them?" Elias thought for a moment. "Yes, because I want to believe in good things. If we stop believing, we stop being human." She smiled faintly. "Then maybe we start being human too." But the peace was about to be broken. Late one evening, as everyone slept, Maya's computer beeped softly. A satellite had detected unidentified objects entering Earth's atmosphere. Their speed and trajectory were not natural. She ran to Elias's room, her face pale. "Elias, someone's coming. It's not human ships." He felt his heart tighten. "The smugglers." They both rushed to the window. In the distance, far beyond the forest, 3 glowing lights fell from the sky. The same fear returned to Lyra's eyes as she sensed the energy of the invaders. "They found us," she whispered. Elias looked at the frightened group. "We won't let them take you." Maya began packing equipment. "We have to move them. The nearest safe zone is an old bunker 20 kilometers north. We can get there by morning." Lyra looked around the small home that had become her safe world. This place. "Our first free home," she said softly. Elias touched her shoulder gently. "And it won't be your last. I promise." They left before dawn. The cold air stung their faces as they moved through the forest trails. The Valerians' faint glow guided their way. like soft lanterns in the dark. Behind them, distant explosions echoed as the smugglers landed near the old crash site. Vorak stepped out of his ship, scanning the area. "They're close," he hissed. "Find them before sunrise." The humans and aliens kept moving. Exhaustion slowed them, but the hope of safety pushed them forward. Elias led from the front, holding a flashlight, while Maya carried her small scanner to track enemy movement. At one point, Lyra stumbled. Elias caught her before she fell. She looked at him and whispered, "Why you risk your life for us?" Elias smiled tiredly. "Because freedom is worth the risk." Her heart filled with warmth she could not explain. She realized that on her planet, love was a quiet feeling shared through light, but on Earth love was an action. It lived in courage, sacrifice, and kindness. As dawn rose, the group reached the bunker, an old underground shelter from forgotten wars. It was dark and dusty but safe. Elias turned to Lyra. "You'll be safe here for now. I'll distract them if they come too close." Lyra shook her head firmly. "No, we stay together. On Valeria, light's stronger when not alone." Elias nodded, understanding her meaning. Humanity had taught her strength. Now she was teaching him unity. Outside, engines roared in the distance. The smugglers were closing in. But for the first time, the Valerians did not hide in fear. They stood beside their human friends, ready to defend their freedom. In that moment, Lyra looked up at the brightening sky and whispered, "Maybe this planet will change the stars." The morning sun rose slowly over the forest, painting golden light across the trees. Birds sang as if the world were calm, but deep beneath the ground, in an old bunker hidden by vines and dust, fear grew stronger every minute. Inside, Dr. Elias Hart, Dr. Maya Chen, and the Valerian girls huddled around a small lantern. The air smelled of metal and earth. The bunker had not been used for decades, yet now it was the only place keeping them safe. Above them, the smugglers searched the forest. Their ships moved silently in the sky, scanning for heat and energy. They were closing in. Lyra looked at Elias with worried eyes. "They come," she said softly, her voice trembling. "They want take us again." Elias placed a hand on her shoulder. "I won't let them." "You're not their property. You're free now." Lyra didn't fully understand every word, but she understood his heart. Humans were strange, fragile, emotional, but brave. They were not the monsters she had been taught to fear. Maya worked quickly, setting up a small communication device. "If we can send a message to the Space Observation Center," she said, "we can alert the global network. Maybe we can get protection before those criminals find us." Elias nodded. "Do it." The Valerians helped as best they could. Their bioenergy could power the old machines for short bursts. Their glowing hands lit up the dusty bunker as they worked. For a moment, the place looked almost alive, as if the underground shadows had turned into a field of stars. Saren smiled shyly. "We help humans, like humans help us." Maya looked at her with awe. "You're more human than many people I know," she said quietly. But before they could finish, a loud sound shook the walls. Dust fell from the ceiling. The smugglers had found the entrance. Elias's heart raced. "They're here." Outside, Vorax, the alien smuggler leader, stood before his soldiers. His sharp eyes scanned the trees. "They're inside," he hissed. "Bring me the Valerians alive. The humans, useless. Leave them." His crew nodded and began cutting through the metal doors. Sparks flew. Inside the bunker, Lyra and the others watched in fear. Maya whispered, "We need more time to finish the signal." Lyra stepped forward. "We can help." Our light confused them. Before anyone could stop her, she moved to the entrance and placed her glowing hands against the old metal wall. Energy pulsed outward, spreading into the air like waves of blue light. When the smugglers entered, they were blinded for a few seconds. Their scanners failed. The Valerian energy scrambled their vision. Elias used that moment to grab a flare gun and fire it at a gas line near the entrance. A burst of smoke filled the tunnel. "Run!" Elias shouted. The group escaped through a back tunnel leading into the forest. The smugglers coughed and stumbled in the smoke. Vorax roared in anger. "Find them!" For hours, the chase continued through the dense forest. The humans and aliens moved quickly, using narrow trails and streams to hide their tracks. Lyra's glow dimmed to blend with the shadows, and Maya carried the communication device carefully in her arms. Elias looked at the exhausted Valerians. "We can't keep running forever," he said. "We need to make contact with the outside world." Maya pointed toward a distant hill. There's an abandoned communication tower there. If we reach it, we can send a clear signal to the orbital network. Lyra nodded. Then we go. The group pushed forward, their steps heavy with fear but guided by hope. Every sound, every snapping branch made their hearts jump. But no one gave up. When they finally reached the hill, the tower stood tall and broken, surrounded by weeds. Its metal surface was rusted, but the core transmitter might still work. Maya connected the wires while Elias stood guard with a simple electric tool as his only defense. Lyra watched the human scientist's hands shake as he worked. "You afraid?" she asked softly. Elias smiled faintly. "Of course. But courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about protecting what matters even when you are." Lyra's heart warmed. Humans were not the strongest species in the galaxy, but their courage was unlike anything she had ever seen. At last, the communication device came to life. Maya sent a message to the United Nations Space Observation Program, marked Priority 1. The message contained data about the Valerians, their rescue, and the alien smugglers attacking Earth. After sending it, they waited in silence. The wind howled through the broken tower. Then a voice crackled through the speakers. "This is command. We received your signal. Stay hidden. Help is on the way." Relief washed over everyone. For the first time in days, they felt hope. But hope didn't last long. A sharp beam of red light struck the ground nearby, burning a hole into the dirt. Borax's ship appeared above the hill. "You think you can hide from me, little humans?" His voice thundered through a loudspeaker. The group scattered. Maya grabbed her computer. Elias pulled Lyra behind a fallen tree. The smugglers landed, armed with energy rifles. Elias whispered, "We can't fight them with weapons, but maybe we can use their greed against them." He pointed to the tower's power core. "Lyra, can your energy overload it?" She hesitated. "Yes, but it's dangerous." He looked at her seriously. "So is losing your freedom." Lyra closed her eyes and placed her hands on the power core. Blue light began to swirl around her, brighter and brighter. The smugglers saw the glow and rushed forward, thinking it was some kind of treasure. "Now!" Elias shouted. The tower burst with light, a brilliant, blinding flash. The smugglers fell back, their ships losing control as the energy wave interfered with their systems. Elias grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her away before the tower exploded. The blast was loud but not deadly, enough to damage the smugglers' equipment and give the humans time to escape again. Hours later, they rested near a small lake deep in the forest. The sun was setting, turning the water golden. Everyone was tired but alive. Maya checked her tablet. Command confirmed. A rescue ship from the Space Observation Fleet will arrive tomorrow morning. Elias smiled faintly. Then this nightmare might finally end. Lyra sat beside him, her reflection glowing softly in the water. "You risk everything for us," she said quietly. "You could hide, but you stay." He looked at her, tired but gentle. "If I hid, I'd lose what makes me human. And maybe what makes us human is exactly what the galaxy needs." Lyra looked up at the sky. "On Valeria, we believe stars remember brave hearts. Maybe the stars will remember you." He laughed softly. "I hope they remember you too." For a moment, silence filled the air. Peace had returned, even if only for a night. But far above the clouds, the story was not yet over. The distress signal from the smugglers reached the interstellar network. And with it, the truth of what had happened on Earth. Governments, alien traders, and explorers across space now knew that humans had protected alien slaves instead of selling them. On distant planets, people began to whisper, "Humans. They defended others? They fought for freedom." The legend of Earth was beginning to change. As the night deepened, Lyra sat beside Elias, watching the stars. "We ran from chains," she said softly, "but found hearts instead." Elias smiled, his voice quiet. "Maybe that's what makes humanity different. We don't need to be perfect to do the right thing." In the distance, a faint light appeared, a ship descending from orbit, coming to rescue them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, beneath the open sky, hope lived again. The Valerians were no longer captives, and the humans, once feared as destroyers, had become their saviors. The next morning came with a strange mix of calm and fear. The forest was silent, but the air felt heavy as if the world itself was holding its breath. The soft sound of waves reached the hidden lake where Dr. Elias Hart, Dr. Maya Chen, and the Valerian girls waited. High above the clouds, a silver rescue ship descended quietly through the sky. Its smooth shape reflected the morning sun like a falling star. The ship belonged to the United Earth Space Fleet, sent to protect the survivors. Lyra stood beside Elias, her eyes wide with wonder. "Human ship?" she asked softly. Elias nodded. "Yes, they're here to help." For the first time in days, hope returned. But far beyond Earth's orbit, the smugglers were not ready to surrender. Vorax, their leader, sat inside his large carrier ship surrounded by smoke and broken equipment. His crew reported heavy losses. "The humans destroyed our scanners," one of them said. "We can't track the Valerians anymore," Vorax growled. "Then we attack Earth itself. Let the humans learn what happens when they steal from us." His ship turned toward the planet. Engines roared like thunder as dozens of small fighters prepared for battle. The war was coming. On Earth, the rescue team found Elias's group near the lake and brought them aboard the shuttle. Inside, everything was clean and bright. Medical officers examined the Valerians with kindness, offering food and blankets. The aliens looked around nervously at first, but the gentle smiles of the humans calmed them. One young pilot looked at Lyra and said kindly, "You're safe now. You're under Earth's protection." Lyra repeated the word protection slowly, as if tasting it. "Protection? From bad people?" The pilot nodded. "Yes, from all bad people." Elias watched the scene quietly. A small smile touched his lips. "Maybe this is what humanity was meant to do," he whispered. "Not to conquer stars, but to guard them." Hours later, as the ship rose toward the upper atmosphere, alarms began to flash red. The captain's voice echoed through the speakers. "Enemy ships approaching. Unknown origin." Elias's heart sank. "Vorax," he said softly. The human crew moved fast. The captain ordered, "All hands to battle stations. Protect the civilians." Through the large window, Lyra saw the black shapes of enemy fighters entering the sky. They fired bright red beams that cut across the clouds. The human ship dodged quickly, returning fire with defensive drones. Inside the command room, Maya helped track the enemy movement on the screens. "They're targeting our engines," she said. The captain frowned. "We can't outrun them. We need to send a signal to the orbital defense grid." Elias stepped forward. "Let me help. I know their energy patterns." He had studied the smugglers' equipment since the crash. Using that data, he helped the crew adjust their shields to resist the enemy's attacks. Lyra watched in awe as humans worked together. Pilots, scientists, soldiers, all moving as one. On her planet, such unity was rare. She turned to Saren. "Humans fight, not for power," she said softly. "They fight for others." Outside, the battle grew fierce. The sky burned with flashes of light. 2 human defense ships arrived from orbit, joining the fight. They moved with speed and precision, using Earth's gravity to their advantage. Vorax's voice crackled through the radio waves. "Surrender the Valerians or your planet burns." The human captain answered calmly. "We don't trade lives. Not on Earth." Vorax laughed, his tone cruel. "Then you will die with them." His fleet began to descend, preparing to strike major cities below. But humans were ready. The orbital defense grid, a ring of satellites and energy barriers, activated for the first time in history. Beams of blue light formed a shield around the planet. Elias and Lyra watched from the window as streaks of light collided above the atmosphere. The battle wasn't just metal against metal. It was a war of values, greed against compassion, cruelty against courage. In the control room, Maya found a weak spot in the smuggler's system. "Their command ship's reactor is unstable," she said. "If we overload it remotely, it could end the fight without destroying them." Elias nodded. "Can we do it?" "We'll need someone to manually align the signal from our communication dish," Maya replied. "It's outside the hull." Before Elias could volunteer, Lyra stepped forward. "I will go." Elias turned sharply. "No, it's too dangerous." Lyra met his gaze, her silver eyes steady. "My light can carry the signal faster. I can help end this." For a moment, he wanted to stop her, but then he saw the same bravery in her that he had seen in countless humans before her. She was no longer a victim. She was free, and she was choosing her own destiny. "Be careful," he said softly. She smiled. I learned from humans. Lyra stepped into the vacuum chamber sealed in a transparent suit designed for low orbit. As the air hissed out, the stars surrounded her like diamonds. She floated gently above the ship, the curve of Earth glowing beneath her. Using her natural bioenergy, she linked to the communication dish and sent a pulse through space. Her glow brightened until she looked like a living star. The human crew watched in awe as data flowed through her hands, connecting the ship's system to the enemy reactor. Maya shouted, "Signal locked! Now!" Elias commanded. A burst of energy shot from their ship, striking the smuggler's command vessel. Vorax's eyes widened as his screens went dark. What are they doing? The human signal overloaded his reactor, forcing him to shut down all weapons to prevent an explosion. His fleet fell into disarray. One by one, their engines powered off and their ships drifted helplessly in orbit. The battle was over. Human ships surrounded the smugglers and took them into custody. The United Earth Fleet had won, not through destruction but through intelligence and restraint. When Lyra returned inside, the humans cheered. Elias helped remove her helmet. Her face was pale, her energy drained, but her smile was bright. "You did it," he said softly. She looked up at him. "We did it!" Humans and Valerians together. The captain approached them. "You've just made first contact history," he said proudly. "The galaxy will remember this day." Elias smiled faintly. "Let's hope they remember the right part. Not the fight, but why we fought." Later, the ship landed safely at a global peace base. Governments around the world agreed to protect the Valerians and any other refugees who sought safety on Earth. News spread quickly across the planet and beyond. For the first time, humans were seen not as conquerors but as defenders. Across distant worlds, people spoke with surprise and respect. The humans fought for others. They protected the weak. Maybe Earth has changed. On Valeria's old communication channels, hidden survivors heard the news and began to hope again. That night, as peace returned, Elias stood outside the base, watching the stars. Lyra joined him quietly. The air was cool and the sky was clear after the storm of battle. "You saved us," she said softly. He shook his head. "No, you saved us from becoming the kind of people we once were." Lyra didn't fully understand, but she felt his meaning. Humanity had proven something today, and not just strength but heart. "You humans," she said gently, "have small bodies, but big hearts." Elias laughed softly. "I'll take that as a compliment." They both looked up at the endless stars. Neither spoke for a long time. The silence between them was not empty. It was peaceful, full of trust. For the first time since the crash, Lyra didn't feel like an outsider. She felt part of something larger, something shared, the light of humanity itself. In the following days, international leaders met to sign the Interstellar Protection Accord, promising that Earth would shelter victims of galactic slavery and outlaw any trade of sentient beings. The Valerians were granted full rights as guests of humanity. Elias gave his research to the world, showing that compassion was the greatest form of intelligence. Maya helped start a new project, a bridge of communication between Earth and other civilizations. Humanity had taken its first moral step into the wider galaxy, not by building weapons, but by protecting the helpless. And among those who had witnessed it all, one alien girl would forever tell the story of how she found freedom and light among the humans of Earth. The first light of dawn spilled over Earth's horizon, soft and golden, warming the green forests and sparkling lakes below. For the first time in weeks, Lyra and the other Valerian girls felt completely safe. They were aboard a secure United Earth Space Fleet facility, far from the dangers of smugglers and warships. Elias Hart and Dr. Maya Chen walked beside them through a quiet garden inside the compound. Flowers swayed in the soft morning breeze and small birds chirped happily. The air smelled clean, like the promise of a new beginning. "You humans, always strange," Lyra said softly, glancing at Elias. "You fight, you hope, and you help. You show courage with heart." Elias smiled faintly. "We are not perfect, Lyra, but we try. That is what makes us human." Saren, standing nearby, tilted her head in thought. "On Valeria, we were captured. Chains everywhere, but here, chains break, hearts open." Maya nodded. "And now no one can take your freedom away. That is the most important thing." Over the next few days, the Valerians explored their new home. They were curious about everything, the plants, animals, and even the human food. They laughed at simple things: bubbles in water, colorful lights in the city, or a bird hopping along a branch. But more than anything, they were learning the ways of humanity. They saw humans work together, sharing tasks, protecting one another, and celebrating life even after danger. Lyra began to understand what Elias had tried to teach her all along. Humans were not perfect, but their strength came from caring, protecting, and creating hope. The Valerians also began teaching humans about their world. They shared ideas of peace, energy, healing, and communication through light. Slowly, the humans realized that freedom and knowledge were a universal language. One afternoon, Elias brought the girls to the observation deck. The planet stretched endlessly below them, a living, breathing home. The sun reflected off the oceans and clouds drifted lazily across the sky. "Look," Elias said, pointing at the horizon. "This is Earth. Your new home if you want it." Lyra took a deep breath. We are safe here. We learn, we help." Her voice was soft but determined. "And we tell others that humans protect, not harm." Elias felt a lump in his throat. In all his years studying life, he had never met beings who could so quickly understand the truth of humanity. And yet, here they were, aliens from another world, choosing to trust him and the humans around him. But freedom came with responsibility. The Valerians now worked with the human scientists to help rebuild and improve space defenses and develop new communication technologies. They shared knowledge of energy sources, helping humans create clean and efficient systems. Lyra spent long hours with Elias, learning to combine human tools with Valerian energy. She found joy in creation, not destruction. "On Valeria," she told him one evening, "we build to share. You humans build to protect. Together, we can do more." Elias smiled. "And that is exactly what we will do." News of the Valerians' rescue and their story spread across Earth. People everywhere celebrated humanity's courage and compassion. Schools taught about the events, newspapers wrote about it, and artists painted images of the glowing aliens standing side by side with human heroes. For the first time, the world felt connected, not by fear or conflict, but by shared hope and moral courage. Humanity had proven that it could rise above greed, cruelty, and violence. Even other civilizations beyond Earth were beginning to notice. Messages arrived from distant planets, some of which had only known humans as aggressive conquerors. Now they were learning a different story. Humans fight for freedom, protect the helpless, and honor life. At night, Lyra sat with Elias outside the compound, watching the stars. The moonlight reflected off her pale skin, and her soft glow mingled with the gentle light of the earth below. "You humans, you changed my heart," she said quietly. Elias turned to her. "No, Lyra, you changed mine. You reminded me why we must fight for good, why we must care even when it is difficult." She looked at him thoughtfully. "Humans love with action. Valerians. We think with light. But together, maybe light and action are same." He nodded. "Perhaps. And maybe that combination is exactly what the galaxy needs." A soft silence fell. The stars above seemed brighter, as if acknowledging their presence, their courage, and their friendship. Weeks passed, and the Valerians adapted fully to Earth. They learned to speak fluent English and shared their culture with humans. The Valerians introduced the concept of light meditation, teaching humans to focus their energy and calm their minds. The humans shared stories of courage, inventing new devices inspired by Valerian technology. In the evenings, Elias and Lyra would sometimes sit quietly, reflecting on their journey. Lyra had grown stronger, wiser, and more confident. She understood now that true freedom meant not just escaping chains, but choosing to stand and protect others. "You saved us," she whispered one night. He shook his head. "No, we saved each other." Her eyes glimmered. "Then maybe we are one, humans and Valerians together." Elias smiled. "Yes, together." Meanwhile, Vorax and his smugglers had been captured and were being tried by a galactic court. Earth's courage in defending the Valerians became a legal precedent, demonstrating that all intelligent beings had a right to freedom and protection. Across the galaxy, oppressed species began looking toward Earth for hope. If humans could rise above greed, violence, and fear, perhaps other worlds could too. The story of the Valerians and the humans became a symbol, not of war, but of morality, courage, and unity. One evening, As the sun set over the horizon, the Valerians gathered with Elias and Maya on a hill overlooking the city. The sky was painted in shades of pink, orange, and purple. The wind whispered softly, carrying the scent of flowers and fresh rain. Lyra turned to Elias. "We leave shadows behind. We walk toward light, and we walk with humans." Elias placed his hand over hers. "Then let us walk together and show the galaxy that freedom and love are worth fighting for." The Valerian smiled. Saren and the others nodded. For the first time since leaving their home planet, they felt complete, safe, free, loved. Around them, Earth seemed alive. Trees swayed gently, rivers sparkled, and the distant cities shone with life. Humanity's courage had changed the world, and perhaps one day the stars. In the following months, the Valerians became ambassadors for peace, working with humans to build bridges across species and planets. They shared their knowledge, inspired new technology, and helped teach humans to see beyond themselves. Lyra, standing at the forefront of this new alliance, often looked back at the journey that brought them here. The crash, the fear, the chase, the battles, and smiled. Every step had led to freedom, trust, and love. Elias stood beside her, watching her glow softly under the evening sky. "The universe is bigger than we imagine," he said. "But the heart makes all the difference," she nodded. "And humans, your hearts are brighter than stars." The galaxy began to speak of Earth not as a planet of chaos, war, and fear, but as a planet of hope, courage, and morality. Across distant worlds, beings whispered the story of humans who protected the helpless, who fought not for power but for right, and who had welcomed strangers with compassion. And somewhere in the midst of that galaxy, two worlds, human and Valerian, stood together, shining their light into the darkness, showing the universe that freedom, friendship, and love were stronger than chains, cruelty, or fear. For the Valerians, it was a new home. For humans, it was a new purpose. And for the universe, it was the beginning of a legend. The legend of how humanity fought for what is right and changed the stars forever.